Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I go live here on YouTube and Facebook at 2:30 on Mondays and Thursdays. I'm a little bit late today. I apologize. I got thrown for a loop this morning. I went into my doctor totally expecting he would set me up with physical therapy and want all these things. Well, no, he wants to do surgery and he wants to do it ASAP. And he even wanted to do it when I'm away on vacation. So that wasn't possible. So I'm scheduled for April 2nd. It's going to be an in and out thing. But I am going to have my arm in a sling for the next 6 weeks or after that. So I've been kind of messing around in my head trying to figure out how I'm going to deal with my Facebook Lives and my in-person retreat and my classes and all of those things. But rest assured, I'm going to figure it out. I've already spoken with Peggy Noe, and she's going to be one of my guests. She's going to come on and do one of the lives with me and create a card for you. So I've also got the ability to film some in advance like I'm doing for my vacation. So I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that you guys are taken care of and will still get my wonderful ideas even while I'm out on convalescence, because this is what I do full time for a living. And so I kind of need to still make money, like reality hits, right? So anyway, today we're making this awesome card. It's a slider card. Isn't that cute? And it was something that I found someone else had done on YouTube. I found a couple of them, and they were all kind of wonky sizes. And the one I nailed on that I decided I was going to use was like, I don't know, 2.5 inches wide. Looked a little goofy. So I messed around with it. I got some different dimensions, and I made it as wide as I could. It's about 3.5 inches wide, and that's as wide as I could go with the 11-inch paper. So I'm going to show you how we do that right down here on my desk. Let me add that to the stage. We will move it over and we'll get started. I was not prepared. Okay, so this is the new bundle that we're using, and I'm actually only using the stamp set today. And I'm also going to, well, actually not only the paper today, because the stamps are actually this one. I loved this. I couldn't wait to get my hands on this. My mother passed away from ovarian cancer. So when this little saying popped up, I couldn't resist. And there's just so many great sayings in here. Like, there's no good card for this. Like, I don't have the right words to say. I think these are awesome. I think that's a fabulous set. I also think the flowers are gorgeous. It comes with this wonderful pack of designer series paper. The Zinnias are actually an entire suite. And so it's got these beautiful bright colors all ready for spring. Of course, they've got the neutrals on the back and the bright bold flowers on the front. I revealed it earlier. I think I did. If I didn't, it's in an upcoming one, because I've actually been filming ahead for my vacation, and I did use it on my video for two of the ones I'm doing while I'm gone. So wonderful to hear that Mary Kay got her card that she won for Prize Patrol. Wendy's got her internet working. That's fabulous. Welcome to everyone. Just making sure I didn't miss any comments. Cute. I want to hear more about these little tiny screwdrivers and what's going on there. I'm going to have to go back and read some comments. That's cute. And somebody's making a box for a craft fair. I have some ideas for that too. Let's get started on today's card. Like I said, I'm a little bit off today. I apologize. Once I wrap my brain around it, I'm going to be okay. Just like I said, I thought I was going to go to physical therapy. Everybody always complains that they have to go to physical therapy first. So that was totally what I was prepared for. Oh, Vicky, good. So glad you found us. Okay, this piece is 5.5 by 11, because I wanted to go with the 8.5 by 11 sheet so that everybody could do this. We could make it a little bit wider if we had the 12-inch paper. but I realize not everybody has that. So, oh, come on. I just turned my light off. There we go. So I'm doing with the 11-inch paper. Oh yeah, I'm sure I'll have lots of physical therapy afterwards. 5.5 by 11. We're going to score this at 3.5, a 7, and 10.5. Well, I guess a little more, 10 and 5/8. I wanted it to fold together like this. Okay, so I had to be careful. You know, the first one, I think I was just under 3.5 because I didn't want it to run into over here. So if when you're scoring it and it runs into that and it doesn't want to close properly, it's bowing too much, then feel free to just trim a hair off of this edge so that it's not interfering with that. Okay, then this, I wanted to make sure that it was on the back side. So that's why it's at that 5/8 instead of at 3/4, because this one actually kind of bumped around a little bit to the front and I didn't like that. I wanted to make sure that this was indeed hidden in the back. So that's our base. Just realized I'm going to need to grab a circle punch, which is on the other side of the room. This is going to go on the front. And so this is going to be 3.25 by 4 3/4 because I'm leaving enough room for us to do the circle punch up here. And then I have these inside pieces. So these are going to be 3.5 by 3 and 2 3/4 by 3.25. So these are going to go inside. Now, in order to make these slide up and down, we're going to use a little bit of plastic. Now, some people have used Ziploc bags or sandwich bags. What I'm using here is actually one of our 6x8 Stampin' Up! Bags. And so I'm going to cut a little bit of this off. It ended up being longer, but I've made a couple of these cards now. So I'm just starting at the edge. My bottom of the bag is down here. And I'm cutting off a little over 1.25 inches. And that's going to go inside. Now I want it to go over this. And so what I need to do is create a little bit of a divot. Now, if you still have the word builder punch, or the word window punch, and there was something else that was a straight all the way across kind of punch, that's what you want to use. I actually don't have mine anymore. So I'm kind of looking. I used a die before. It's a little cumbersome running it through the die cutting machine. I mean, it wasn't too bad, but you know, I needed it to just overlap here. So I'm kind of looking at punches thinking they're going to be more convenient. So maybe even if I could do that and then have it come over more, what I want to do is I want this to come in about a 1/2 inch, I guess, and then come across. So, I mean, it maybe even not that far. I just need enough for the bag to freely run up and down here. Okay, so this is going to be a little groove that it's going to sit in. So let's see. Could come down a little more. Okay, so what else have I got up here? This is where we get kind of ingenious and we kind of play around with our punches and find out what we have that's going to work. I think I can make this one work. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Perfect. Okay, now it looks a little funny because my pencil marks are there, but I just want that kind of little bit of a track out of there. Using the pencil just gave me a kind of a line to follow. Yep, that's going to work. Okay. When I was saying the word window punch, the thing that it's going to do is going to allow you to not have this little divot in the middle here, where I didn't quite align it, but we want this nice and smooth all the way across. So if you have, let's say, a die that's supposed to be a window for a sentiment or something, see how you just set it on there and have it notch out on the top and the bottom of that. Okay, does that make sense? I want you guys to be able to work with, what you have. Obviously, I love it when you guys order from me and buy more Stampin' Up! Supplies, but we want to save that for all the new fun, exciting bundles and things. We don't want to be buying a new tool for every single thing we work on, right? We want to be able to make use of what we have. And so take a look at some of your punches, find out which ones might have an edge like that you can use. When I go around here to the front and I want this little notch for where we're going to pull out the card, that's actually going to be in this middle panel. I'm using 1.5 inches. If you have a 1 inch, if you have the 1 3/4, whatever it is, you can use it. It'll just depend on what the depth of how you're going to put that in there. You just want enough that you can grab hold of the card when it's in there. And I wanted to make sure I left enough room. I sure as heck did. There we go. That's going to not interfere with my designer series paper on the front. Y'all with me? So I know this card is not one of my simpler ones. I try to simplify it for you, but I do understand when you're a little taken aback by some extra steps we have going on here. So I'm going to pause for a minute. Maybe you want to screenshot. Maybe you want to just take a look. We want this half to have this little notch on top and bottom. This side is going to have our little finger pull area. This is solid, and it's going to have this 3/8 of an inch overhang over here. Okay, it's all going to fold into itself like that. Okay, so we will end up sticking it together with this strip right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put some tear and tape on there. Can y'all hear Pixie back there? She's snoring. You can see her. She's back there behind me in the little white crown bed. So funny. Sorry. Okay, so then we want this little strip here. So this is what I was saying was that little piece of the 6x8 Stampin' Up! Bag. You can see how this could easily be part of a sandwich bag, a Ziploc bag, any of that kind of stuff. I'm going to open it up because it's not exactly the right size. So I'm going to have one long, skinny, or 1.5 inch strip. And I'm going to bend it around. Now I kind of want this little, I don't want to say lump, but yeah, kind of this section in the back. And then I want this to come over and meet over here. So I'm going to have some adhesive strip here and some adhesive strip here later. And I want that covering up the little bump and covering up where it joins, because I don't want those two sections to have to roll completely over the top. Ask me how I know. I put one of my cards together, and every time it tried to take that section that had the tear and tape and tried to pull it over the top, it was not a happy camper. So I'm just going to take and make sure we have, some good adhesive here, because it's going to get movement. Every time there's movement, we want a little bit of extra oomph in there so that it doesn't get pulled apart. And then I don't want this to be really super tight. I'm kind of pulling it tight, and then I'm giving it a little bit of lax so that it will slide. I don't want it too taut. Then I'm going to take off the backing here. Okay. So I don't know if you can see, but see how that gives it a little bit of, room that it's moving. So it's a little bit lax. And I'm going to cut off this excess. Okay. Now remember, it's going to go together like this. And so these pieces are going to go in here and back here. So one of them's in the front, one of them's in the back of this piece right here. Okay, when I watched the video of the gal that I followed to put mine together, she went ahead and she stamped and put these on here before she adhered this part. So you can. My thought was she was real worried about what way the things were going to be facing, and we don't need to worry about that if we don't put it on there yet, right? I don't know. Oh, although we might need to. Let me think. Okay, so this is going to go this way. So that, because it's on the front of our ribbon, that's going to be okay, because the white's going to be on this side. Over here, actually, we'll need to put this one on, because this is going to be the white part facing down so that the white are both on the front. Okay, so this one we do need to do. We'll need to adhere this one on first. And we should always stamp before adhering, right? I'm always telling you that. Okay. Oops. I use my grid paper to set the stamp down on, so I align the words on one of the lines there, and then I'm aligning the side of my block with a line going this way in hopes that that's going to keep us all straight. Okay, I want this to be a little bit on the low side so I don't have to worry too bad about how far I need to pull it in order for it to be seen. I mean, it comes pretty far, so it definitely could be centered, but it just works a little better if it's lower. And then this one's going to be a little high. Not too high because of the ribbon, but you follow me, right? Okay, I'm going to come in with some Blackberry Bliss, because that's the cardstock we're using. One of my favorite things about Stampin' Up! Is that everything coordinates. So I found the colors I was using for the cardstock and all that by taking my little cardstock sampler and then comparing it to the designer series paper. On the back of the paper, they always have the colors that they're using. And so what I'll do is I'll pull those out and decide which ones I like. And so that's how I ended up with Berry Bliss and Blackberry Bliss and Berry Burst. And they're even next to each other in here. So that's what that's for. I've often seen people take these little tiny things and maybe photocopy it and enlarge it, or just get somebody to read it to them and write it in bigger letters down the side, because it's really little on there. They've got a lot of room on there. I think Stampin' Up! Could make it bigger if they wanted to, don't you think? Okay. Then I'm going to take and do this other one. Like I said, I want this one to be a little bit high, but not so high that it's going to interfere with the ribbon. Then I'm going to get this out of the way before we stick something in it, right? Tell me I'm not the only one that does that. Set the back of my card, my elbow, you know, something into the ink pad. Thank you to those of you who are entering hashtag Prize Patrol. That is how you get entered into the drawing to win today's card, because this card will be going in the mail to somebody as their prize for watching and commenting. And anytime that you like or comment and share and all that good stuff, it does good things for me with the algorithm and gets me shown to more people. So I am very thankful to those of you who do that for me. Okay, I'm setting this in here, knowing that this is the way I'm going to want it to pull out. This is the side that's going to face the front of my card, because when it's all put together, this will be the front. So I want that to come out the bottom. And I'm putting this over that lump, as I said, and I'm putting it high on this piece here. So by my laying it in here, I can kind of eyeball about where it's going to hit at the top. Then I can come in here and, after it's kind of burnished, pull that off. And then I'm going to set this kind of flush with the bottom and spanning over that opening. So see how I'm in there? That's where I want it. Okay, then this piece, like I said, is going to come over here, and the white's going to be facing out. So my Blackberry Bliss side is going to stick over here. And then we're going to do the same thing, only this time we're going to match it with the top. We're going to span that opening, kind of make it flush with the top, and then press it down into that section. Then this will go over that. Okay, so when this all goes together, the theory is this is going to, I'm going to pull up on this one, and it's going to make the bottom one slide out. So how it does that is that as I'm pulling one of these, it's stuck right here. And so it's pulling that little clear piece. Is that making sense to everybody? Have I lost anyone? Let me know if you need me to explain something further, but I think you should get it. Okay, the other tricky thing is when we go to adhere this to the front of our card, we don't want it to interfere with this back part that's sliding. So what we're going to have to do is wrap it around that. So I want that back card to be underneath this little lip. Then I'm going to peel off this backing, and we're going to stick it together. Okay. So it still moves. Always, play with it, make sure everything's working right. Don't be intimidated. It's only paper. It can be torn apart and put back together, but hopefully y'all are getting it and it's working for you. Then I want to make a small hole up here, and I'm going to do that with my 1/8 inch hole punch. I happen to have this. Stampin' Up! Used to sell it quite some time ago. They don't anymore. But if you don't have this, I wasn't looking straight down, so I'm not centered. This is the exact same size that you need it to be to go through there. So you can use your take your pick tool to poke a hole through there if you have to. Another thing you can do with the take your pick tool is I need this to be fed through the hole. And so I can use the pointy end to kind of push those through. Okay. Then I had used a heat embossed sentiment on the front. When heat embossing, we want to make sure that powder does not stick where it's not supposed to. And so we use what we call an embossing buddy, and that's this little bag here. And it's filled with just a little bit of powder. I've heard people say it's cornstarch. I've heard baby powder. I don't know what it is. What it does is it's taking the oils and anything on there that might make it kind of either sticky or have static electricity, and it's taking it away from that paper so that it's supposedly nice and clean. Then we're going to come in with Versamark ink. Versamark ink is a sticky ink. It's one of those things that stays wet for a little while, usually because we want it to stay sticky enough so that we can put our white embossing powder over it and put it where we want it to. So heat embossing is one reason to use Versamark, but it's not the only one. There are other techniques we can do with it that I will, get into at some point. I'm not going to do that right now, but I'm going to show you one thing. Another thing that I use it most often for, if it's not going to be for heat embossing, is that you can stamp onto paper and see how it just gives kind of a watermark effect. You can take and heat set this or just let it air dry, and it'll make a really pretty background even without ever adding any kind of powder to it at all. So it can be just kind of a watermark look. But we are indeed going to be putting powder over it. And I'm using the Versamark ink. There are many people out there who will say if you're going to be embossing in white, it's best to use white ink. We do have a craft ink. They call it Whisper White. And this, again, is a sticky ink. It actually comes uninked, and then you take the bottle and you squeeze it onto the pad. I'm sorry, I'm not a huge fan. I don't like it. It doesn't seem to work really well for me. I know it should. I don't know if it's user error or what, but I prefer the Versamark. I'm putting it into this little tray, which is part of the embossing toolkit. And the embossing toolkit comes with this tray. It comes with some little tweezers, a little brush, making it really easy to get that on there. You'd wipe off any excess, and then you would use these tweezers to hold on to it. So when you are heat setting it, you don't burn your fingers. Oh, and it also comes with the embossing buddy. It's all together in one kit. You may notice that right now the embossing, the little pots of embossing powder are not available. And that's just a temporary thing. Stampin' Up! Had decided that they're going to get them from a different distributor, and they thought they had enough for the transition, and they don't. So it is coming back. So don't panic that it's not orderable right now. It will be coming back. Okay, now what it should do is it should turn everything kind of shiny. That's how you can tell when it's done, is when the light starts hitting it, which I can't quite make it do, but it gets a little bit of a shiny edge to it. And that's when you know it's done. You may have noticed I was heating it from the top and the bottom. That's on purpose, because the reason that cardstock will warp is because it's getting uneven temperature. And so I was just trying to keep it heated from top and bottom, and that kept my paper straight. Okay, I know I want to cut this right about here. Again, I can make a mark with my fingernail. I can guesstimate. We can measure. Whatever works for you. I'm going to set this in here and just trim off the edge. And I'm using my trimmer because it is getting me a nice clean edge. As you can see, it's right about 3 7/8. If you needed a measurement, you probably don't, but you know, some people think they do. Okay, then I'm going to adhere this on the front. And then all that's left to do is add a few of our little sequins. Ooh, come on, stick. I keep my sequins in these little gum containers. These are the ones that hold like 35 sticks of glue at the checkout stands. Sticks of glue. Sticks of gum. 35 sticks of gum. Okay. And I'm just putting a few of them on there kind of randomly. And then it's all ready to go. So who wants this one in the mail? Did you put in hashtag prize patrol? That's what gets you entered into the drawing. And then I also have a couple projects to show you because I do know what I'm doing coming up. So let me grab that while you guys put in hashtag prize patrol. Just like that, all run together as one word, no spaces. Here we go. Okay. Thursday, I'm going to be making a St. Patrick's Day card because several of you have said we need something for St. Patrick's Day. And I don't actually have a St. Patrick's Day stamp set. There wasn't really one in the catalog this year. So I did pull out this one, Charming Sentiments, because it did have a saying that said good luck. As close as I could get stamp-wise as far as greetings. But I went ahead and made this. I took our Brewed for You stamp set and I made green beer. And then I covered it with a little bit of Winkostella so that the glass looked like it was glass. The other thing you could do is you could either heat emboss clear over the top of it or use a piece of acetate to make the acetate look like the glass. I tried to make a little bit of a shadow using our Stampin' blends. And then it opens this way. So again, just still really simple, but has a little bit of a wow to it. That's what we'll make on Thursday. I have yet to finish what I'm working on for Monday. I don't have that totally nailed down, but I do know what I'm doing the Thursday and Monday after that while I'm gone. So one of them that I've already pre-filmed is this little box here. Oh, and I grabbed the one without the Ferrero Rocher that goes in there. You may have seen at Christmas, I do the Ho 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 box. So for Mother's Day, we're going to do Mom. And then I also have another box because I said, you know, hey, since I can't do Prize Patrol because I'm out of the area, I can do boxes that can't be shipped. So you guys will get the ideas. This one here is a box of cards, but they're not all the way done yet. The beauty of this set is that I gift them all of the bases kind of already done, and then they have these little sentiments that they can then take and adhere to the card when they decide what it is that they want to give it to somebody for. So they would have a nice assortment of cards and an assortment of sayings, and they can mix and match and send out cards. So what a great gift idea for someone who's not a card maker but wants to be sending cards out. Can't you see little ladies in nursing homes like loving this idea? Thought that was super cool. So I think I've stalled long enough and we're ready to do our spin and see who wins today's card. Ooh, shoot. And I went and spun it without sharing the screen. I've done that before. So it's back there wheeling around and just pick somebody, and I wasn't sharing the page. So let's just share the page. There we go. Vicky is our winner. Congratulations, Vicky. I'm sorry it wasn't on screen as it rotated all the way through, but Vicky is today's winner. I promise I didn't tamper with it. I just forgot to share my screen. So congratulations, Vicky. Thank you to everyone who joined us and is going to be making the card. Thank you to those that are watching live and on replay. And especially thank you to those of you who have been praying for my shoulder. It's finally going to get fixed. I will find out how I'm going to get through that, but we will. The surgery will be April 2nd. So in the meantime, I will be prepping away so that you guys are covered during my recovery. Yep. Pixie's still back there, sound asleep in her bed. Let's see. Sophie must be upstairs watching guard out the front window. So I will be back here on Thursday with our St. Patrick's Day green beer card. I'll see you then. Thanks a lot. Oh, Vicky, you're going to want to go to my website, queenbeecreations.net. Up there, come on, up there in the address bar after the .net, you're going to put /Prize Patrol. It's going to direct you over to the claim form where you fill that in and tell me your address and where you want it mailed. So see you Thursday. Bye.